Hello, hello, hello. Hooligan Soccer Podcast coming back at you after an extended hiatus, having been distracted by the Club World Cup. Hooligan and I we're launching and pushing another show, which has come to a head now that that tournament is over. But the beautiful thing about the world of football and the world of soccer is it's endless. When you go out from one tournament, there's another one waiting for you to get into. So today we have a very special edition of the Women's Euros special edition for the Hooligan Soccer Podcast.
Yes.
With myself, Gary Striker, and of course the Qooligan. And for the first time, the Qooligan with his male Dutch shirts, not his women's Dutch shirts on as well. We'll get into
more on that later. More on that later.
And then, of course, we have a special guest and probably more domain expert, Sarah Ach, who is from the Women's Soccer Show. Is that correct, Sarah? I'm saying that correctly?
Correct. Yep.
Welcome.
Awesome.
Welcome. Sarah, do you want to give everyone just a quick overview about you, your background maybe, and your show and where people can find you? That's would be helpful. Then we get into it.
I'll keep it quick. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to talk about this. Sarah Ach, the Women's Soccer Show is my podcast. We've been around since 2020. We discuss all things, both domestic and international football, from the U.S. to the WSL. I'm obviously American. My co-host is English, and we're doing full Euros coverage. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. And I also do play-by-play commentary for Stanford, for Cal, for University of San Francisco, and for the USLW League.
Beautiful. Wow.
And interesting story, ladies and gentlemen. I actually met Sarah when she was commentating and I like to refer to Sarah as the voice of rage, because she does commentating for the Pleasanton Rage of the USLW League.
It can be misleading if you say the voice of rage.
It can, but I still think it's badass and awesome, which if you ever hear her commentating, she is badass and awesome. So go and listen to her do live commentary. She is fantastic. So
not quite as badass and awesome as this jersey, but close.
Hey, listen, if there's one thing the Dutch do, it's wear orange very well, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But maybe not in this particular Euros. But hold on, Group D's coming later.
We'll get into it. And Sarah, it's interesting that you've also chosen to have a podcast of one American and one English as well. So you also find you have the same resounding success with obviously the dynamics of the different accents and pronunciations and the balance of football and soccer. Is that it?
Absolutely. I usually, Allie never calls it soccer. I usually call it football. I'm usually the one to give with that. And I concede. I don't know why it's not called football. It's funny, some of the things here and there that come up where I'm just like, I have no idea what phrase you just used. I know we're speaking the same language, but we're not.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. It's not the same language. It's a whole different language. I had to basically retrain my whole sort of linguistic set and framework as well living here in the US. So that's for sure.
My favorite one is a damp squib that I've learned. If the game is a damp squib, then I know it was a bad one.
Yeah, that is wow. Damp squib. I haven't heard that. Wow, that's a wow.
Yeah, that's deep. That's a deep one. I haven't heard damp squib in a long time.
She must be quite a posh person as well if she's throwing out damp squib as well. Is that fair to say?
No, that actually wasn't from Allie.
Okay, that was not from her. All right.
Okay.
Still my favorite though.
Wonderful. Okay. So Women's Euros edition. So let's get into this. So I think what we do as well, we are now at the end of the group phase as well, and we're about to go into the quarterfinals. So why don't we break it down in the most natural way and start with Group A? And why don't we break down this group, this wonderful Group A, which consists of Norway, Switzerland, Finland, and Iceland.
Yeah. Sarah, take the lead.
Yeah.
All right.
Give us the overview.
The overview, you want me to just go in from from this match day 3, or you want me to jump in from the beginning?
Right? Who won? All
right.
Who disappointed? Who overachieved?
All right, well, Norway's advancing first. Switzerland is advancing second. Finland missed out. Iceland missed out. Iceland were eliminated after match day 3, so they're not really a concern. We can chat about them briefly because I quite frankly think that they completely underperformed. The irony here is that Norway, who are advancing first, have really underperformed, but maybe in terms of Norway, who historically always underperformed, they've perhaps overperformed their underperforming, if that makes sense, as a lot of people picked them not even to make it out of this group, despite this being, I think, without argument, the weakest group of the 4. I frankly think that the standouts were Finland and Switzerland, who played each other in the final group stage match. And it was kind of in Finland's court. They had to win. Switzerland were going to move on with a draw or a win. It was an incredible match, certainly heartbreak for Finland. But quite frankly, these were the two exciting teams in the group. I'm a little bummed that Norway's moving on because they haven't been fun to watch. But to see the home nation like Switzerland advance is going to be a blast.
Wonderful.
Man, you nailed it. And very similar thoughts. I'm always very pro Iceland. I think any country that has less than 600,000 people that can field a competitive squad is a remarkable story. I love the Icelandic thunderclap. I love everything about the way Iceland, but I agree. They didn't look good. That red card early in that first game kind of set them back, set the stage for a disappointing Euros for them. I agree. Norway should not have advanced. Finland was this far superior team in their second match. They should have walked out of there. But Norway's Norway, and they sometimes they find a way to win, and it's frustrating when they do that because, I wanted Finland in there because Finland played with an insanely un-Nordic spark. They were absolutely vibrant, and they were passionate, and they were moving the ball well, and they were gritty, and it's really a shame that they're not going to be there. Do want to give a shout. Hosts Switzerland, well done. Really well done to you guys. That last minute, was it the 87th minute, 86th minute goal to get the equalizer against Finland?
I think it was in injury time, actually. I think it was like the 92nd,
It might have, So, I mean, wow. I leapt off my couch, jumping up and down, because that's what you want with the Euros, is that type of dramatic finish. And of course, for the host team to make it through, they avoided the embarrassment of being only the second ever host nation to not make it through out of the group phase. And so, yay, kudos to Switzerland.
Nobody expected it. Nobody expected it from Switzerland or from Finland, quite frankly. But Norway have been, despite having, I think you described them perfectly, because despite having a team full of world-class players, a team full of players who've spent a lot of time on world-class teams like Barcelona, have played in not just the Champions League, but Champions League finals. They are one of the more disorganized teams that will be in the quarterfinals. And Switzerland and Finland, both extremely organized. I think it'll be interesting when we get onto the quarterfinal preview, because Switzerland do have Spain. But I've been enjoying watching Switzerland play. They play with a 5-back, but when they transition into that offensive shape, it becomes a 3-back. They push those wings up, and both of these teams have been organized defensively, and they don't seem afraid to attack, and that's what's been fun to watch. The organization, the patience. They're both very young teams. Switzerland, on average, the youngest team in the Euros.
That's right.
They're not playing like it. Yeah.
No. And may I just say that Sydney Schertenlieb, wow. Does she look good? I mean, she just absolutely insane up there. I think she has been, at least in Group A, the one player that has stood out to me. And I had no idea who she was, but now she is way on my radar. So, phenomenal striker.
Group A has been full of, in my opinion, some standout players who I'll call like the second tier of players, where it's people who you only know if you are deep in the leagues, if you're following the NWSL and the WSL on a regular basis. And otherwise, it's a lot of players who had some standout performances that nobody would have known otherwise. Like on Finland, Emma Koivisto, who was incredible. Right. Even Kuikka, who plays for the Chicago Stars in the NWSL, not a name most people know. She was fantastic for Finland. So we're losing some good ones. But Nadine Reisen for Switzerland, and obviously everybody's fallen in love with Leah Valti, who plays her soccer for Arsenal, having an incredible tournament in Switzerland for the home nation. Yeah. I mean, it's too bad they drew Spain. It really is.
Well, let's get that's a great segue.
Yeah,
let's get on to Group B. Let's talk about Group B. Right.
Yeah. So how was the breakdown for this group as well? Because it looks like Spain obviously dominated, obviously with 3 wins, obviously 9 points maximum points. Looks like they even conceded 3 goals as well, so compared to the 14 that they scored. And then Italy, Belgium, and Portugal just trailing in there. So can you give us a breakdown on what your take is here, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Spain are interesting one because they've obviously been touted as probably the favorites in this tournament so far, but I think that there's a weakness, and you just pointed it out, and that's their defense. They're in a group with Italy, Portugal, and Belgium. And for a team like Spain to have conceded, even at all, frankly, in this group, really does paint a picture that their defense is very breakable. Their offense, they're almost the exact opposite of what we think of when we think of Spain, because I think of a team that does not concede, scores maybe one goal. They'll win 1-0, and that's it. This team can put up big numbers on the offensive side, but they will concede. And in this final group stage game, Italy took it to Spain. Italy scored first. They were up 1-0. It was 1-1 at halftime. And yes, Spain put 2 away in the second half, but that doesn't tell the picture of what Italy were able to do. I think that says 2 things. One, it bodes very well for Italy, who I think have been a lot better than we all expected. We expected something from them, but not quite this. And I think the investment in the domestic league in in Italy is really starting to pay off. But Spain are a little vulnerable. They were obviously outstanding. I think that they're vulnerable in that way. This final group stage game really did come down to Italy and Portugal. Belgium were already eliminated. Italy just needed Portugal to lose or draw. Italy kind of had it in their hands, and they advanced over Portugal and Belgium, who, quite frankly, they put up a bit of a fight, but I don't think we need to discuss those teams. I think the real interesting point here is how much better Italy is than people thought, and perhaps the weak points of Spain.
I'm glad that you mentioned the league, because Italy actually has the highest percentage of their roster that plays domestically of any team inside the Euros this year. 21 of their 23 rostered players actually play in Italy. So it speaks not only to a national sense, right, but to that they're developing it organically. It doesn't go as any surprise that other strong domestic leagues include Spain, right? Spain has a strong domestic league. England and Germany are the next 3 in terms of numbers. But yeah, I'd like to give a little bit of time to Portugal, because I did love, in terms of games that don't matter. And there were a number of games that had no consequence upon the outcome of the Euros, and yet were still some of the best games around. And this Portugal-Belgium one, wow, I loved that. 2 teams with nothing to play for, who just went all out for the love of the game, the love of the sport, and national pride. And Portugal, Portugal pulled it, and with some really nice. You saw flashes of it in previous games, and this was the first time that you actually saw it come out. They were able to, and I do think Belgium was a little beaten down by then. They did not, they had an extraordinarily poor Euros, even by Belgian standards. It was poor. That was just a little, that's my Netherlands-ish dig at Belgium, which the only one I will have on this. But yeah, and you're absolutely correct. Spain waltzed through this group, but when they met Italy's dance was different, and they were able to bop them in the nose. And if you're a team like Sweden, like Germany, England, you've got to look at the way Spain has played and say, right, we can exploit this. We can absolutely take them. We can absolutely surprise them. But what you've got to do is, boy, do you have to defend well against Spain, because their creativity is shocking. It's shocking.
Yeah, it really
is. How skilled they are, and how easily they move the ball. Wow.
Even
Gorgeous.
For Spain, their ability to play in tight spaces is pretty unmatched. It's really, been incredible to watch what they've been able to do offensively. I think it's been a bit of a trend for these powerhouse teams so far in this tournament, where their offense is so high powered, and yet their defense, it doesn't quite match it. I think we've seen a lot more shootouts, a lot more big teams concede than we've really ever seen before.
Agreed. Yeah. Alexia Putellas, I mean, right. 7, it's like 3 goals and 4 assists. Now, granted, they racked up a lot of, right. They had 2 games where they just were unleashing. But still, that's Amazing numbers.
I think my biggest question for Spain going into the quarterfinals is basically going to be, Group C and D were more competitive than Groups A and B.
100%.
Were Spain tested enough? And are they even going to be tested enough until they hit the semifinals? And that's no disrespect to Switzerland, who they'll meet in the quarterfinals. But when you get a team like that who's completely untested, they could be very rested and ready to go, more so than other teams who might have to go play extra time or something in a quarterfinal. Or they could be untested, lazy, and not mentally there.
I don't think Spain's going to be mentally lazy, and their rotation is so deep that it's going to be, right? It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
So if we're just sort of then looking at that side of the bracket on the quarterfinals then, so it sounds like both of you overwhelmingly believe that Spain will absolutely steamroll Switzerland. Is that a sort of fair analogy? And if so, what sort of, can I push you for some sort of maybe score predictions or sort of how you think it'll end up?
Yeah, I'm always one to maybe pick the underdog in a bracket. I don't mind my bracket failing if I pick the underdog, but I think that if you don't pick Spain in this game, you've lost your mind.
No, you're completely insane. You're completely insane.
I think this game will shape up to be, as much as Switzerland have tried to push those outside backs in the back five forward, and they've been able to do so in their group, when they hit Spain are going to have full control of possession in this game. And I think it's going to end up being a low block for Switzerland, and Spain just firing shots for 90 minutes, trying to break down that low block. It's not going to be pretty. I think that it's all going to depend on how well that low block for Switzerland is going to hold up. Score prediction, I think Switzerland can nick one maybe, but I'm going to go with a 4-1. And I think that's being generous.
I'm saying 4-0 for me. I think Switzerland will come close, but again, I think it's, my other big prediction is I think Spain, it's very likely that Spain is going to have anywhere between 68 to 72% possession. It's going to be a high possession game for Spain.
I mean, they had 75% of possession against Italy.
So. Right. Just dominated. And conceded 2 goals there? Yeah. So
1, but still.
1? Oh, never mind. Sorry. I thought it was 2.
Okay.
Even worse.
And then, no, so it sounds like you guys have Spain as the overwhelming obviously dominant team here. And then what about the other quarterfinal that we've discussed in terms of Norway and Italy here? Where would you guys position this one?
Oh boy.
You want to take
all right,
it
Sarah?
first,
I'm going to take lead on this one, and
Go
then
ahead.
you can basically school me on just how wrong I was. So my heart and my soul and everything about my essence screams out, please, Italy, embarrass Norway. That's what I'm wanting. Okay. And I'm going with that. I do think Italy can do this unless Norway somehow magically find some kumbaya moment where everybody decides that they're going to just play together as opposed to just sort of go off and do their own thing. Italy takes this one, but it's going to be close. 2-1 Italy.
I don't think that's crazy at all. My heart and my head also say Italy. And that's all based on not just how well Italy have performed, but how poor Norway have been, not just in this tournament, but also historically in major tournaments for the past, I'm going to say 5 years, maybe 4 if I'm being generous. I just have no faith. I wouldn't have picked them to get out of the group stages if they weren't in Group A. And you talk about teams not being tested like Spain. Norway also haven't been tested in a group with Finland, Switzerland, and Iceland. And so I think Italy's been tested more. They played Spain. If you can nick a goal against Spain, you certainly can against Norway, whose defense is much worse than Spain. They've been disorganized. And Italy doesn't have the strongest defense. But I think it's going to be a wild game. Neither of these teams are super organized defensively. I think it might turn into a crazy match, a goal fest, if you will. I think it'll actually end up being maybe a 3-2 Italy.
All right, cool.
The one statistical thing that jumps out at me just looking at the standings in the group phase is Italy are the only teams who have qualified who have a greater goals against than goals for ratio, right? So they obviously qualified with a -1 goal difference, which would infer that they're soft going forward and then quite leaky at the back. Whereas on the other hand, obviously you can see that we've got this Norway team who have the ability. I agree what you're saying, easier group, easier way to score goals, but that would be a real concern for me. And does seem very uncharacteristic of the Italians, particularly not to have such an emphasis on the defensive side of things.
that's what's made them so fun to watch. Is, I mean, they took it to Spain. They weren't scared at all. They went right down Main Street. They went right down the throat, right down the middle of Spain. Nobody does that. That's kind of crazy to do. And they did it. And that leaves them wide open to some counters, and they'll pay for it. But it's kind of a double-edged sword, if you will.
Okay, exciting. Open-ended soccer, which is wonderful, wonderful. Okay, and then just jumping back into the other side of the groups, and obviously it sounds like sort of the more trickier side, the two groups of death, as it were. Group C, Sweden looks like comfortably going through. Obviously Germany qualifying as well. Poland and Denmark not so fortunate. So yeah, what would you guys sort of take on sort of the breakdown here of how these guys performed in Group C?
I'll fully admit, my heart belongs in German soccer. There's something about how they play that it's had my heart since I was like 12 years old. I love to watch them play. That was certainly not on display in this final group game. It was a pretty simple one for Group C. Poland and Denmark had already been eliminated. A shout out to Poland, who did beat Denmark 3-2. That was a fun game, and that's their first ever win in a major tournament. So that's pretty cool. But the other game, it was Sweden-Germany. Sweden needed a tie or a win to advance first. Germany needed the win to advance first just because of goal differential. And everything kind of fell apart for Germany, who also fell apart in the group stages of the World Cup 2 years ago and didn't even make it out of the group stages after being one of the favorites to win the World Cup. And it almost felt like a repeat of that this year. And even worse, let's see, it was group stage match 1. They lost their captain, Gvin, who's also their starting right back.
That was devastating. That was devastating. That was horrible to see, just because you never want to see your talisman player go down with an injury that early on in the tournament. It always just kind of throws you for a loop.
Yeah, I think it did, because I think they kind of crashed out in this game. And the young Carlota Vomser, I feel very bad for her, but it was Luis Suarez.
What a goalkeeper she is, though. She's got a great career as a goalkeeper. If she ever decides that she wants to get out of playing defense,
good instincts.
Some gloves on. Just put some gloves on. I mean, in case anybody missed it, she got a straight red card for literally doing a diving save on a point blank shot. In the 31st minute, thereby putting Germany well behind the 8 ball. That was rough. Yeah.
It was rough. And I think the part that almost adds insult to injury is that she had slotted back into the right back position to replace Gvin. Yeah. So now you're down a starter, a captain, and now you're backup. And Germany are kind of limping into this quarterfinal.
They are. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay. You gave a shout out to Poland, and I think it's well deserved. Again, Denmark, Poland, a game where there is zero upside for either side, either team, except pride. And I had been generally impressed with Poland. I thought they were steely. They were disciplined in the back. Again, quality comes out. Piora is a wonderful talent.
Incredible.
This player Padilla, who was born and raised in Spain but plays for Poland, has great fire and great energy. And so to see them come alive in that game against Denmark, and to see Denmark then respond, going down 2 goals to Poland quick, and then to see them respond and come back, and the back and forth. And if you were to just turn this game on, you would never know that these two teams were playing for nothing, absolutely nothing. You would thought, oh my, look at that. What a bunch of feisty players out there going at it 100%, 110% even. And that's what you want to see in every single match here. So well done to both teams, but especially to Poland getting their first major tournament win, because they were one of the 2 debutantes in the tournament. And well done. And that, you talk about some of the hardships that players have to go through in the women's game, and Poland. Poland and Wales, both as confederations and as nations, the struggles that the players have to overcome just to make it there are remarkable. And so, well done to both countries for being there, and well done to both countries for giving it their all. But yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then wrapping up, and then Group D. This seemed like it was
group
obviously this was a
Oof.
real group of death by the looks of it as well. I mean, France obviously topping it, and then England coming through, obviously last tournament champions and sort of defending champions, and then of course you have the Dutch and the Welsh. So it seems like the Welsh were just everyone just had some fun with Wales by the sounds of it. And
let me tell you
smashed,
this:
right?
if Wales, that was the worst possible draw that Wales could have had. I mean, everybody knew it. They knew it coming in. There was Wales was playing for one thing, in my opinion, and that's just to score.
Specifically against England, if they could.
Specifically against England. We'll get to that.
Everyone wants to score against England.
Everyone wants to score against England. Wales more than others. But a little history, which is fascinating, right? So you got your defending champs, England. You have the previous Euros defending champs, Netherlands. You have France, which should be a defending champion, but isn't, just because of whatever reasons. But one of the strongest sides in this year's Euros. Those three, it is shocking to me that one of them was not going to get through. I will completely and utterly admit, I am wearing a Dutch jersey right now. I am glad that the Netherlands did not advance, because they would not have deserved it. They did not play their game. They did not play as well as they are used to playing. Now, there's probably a lot of reasons that you can go into that. I am not the Dutch media. I will not unpack that here. Let's just say that I'm very pleased that they did not advance. If they had played up to a level and didn't, I might have something to say. But they didn't play up to that level. They got beat fair and square. They got thumped by England. And they kind of got thumped by France, although at least they made a game out of it. There was no game against England. It was like they were done. They were done and cooked by like 25 minutes. It was over. Like, move on out. So yeah, the right teams advanced. And I'm excited for the next rounds. Sarah, your thoughts?
I'd agree. I don't think that they played well enough to advance whatsoever. I think there are a lot of reasons to it. I have my own theories. Everybody does. There's so much to say about all of these teams, and I love to play the game of, if this team was in Group A, what would have happened? And I think that can be the case for obviously both the Netherlands and Wales, but specifically I think it's fun to play with Wales. But I mean, to get back onto the Netherlands, France, England, the Netherlands, I think, have just hit a moment in their national team where they've reached a point where they need some turnover. There's a lot of veterans there. There's a lot of injuries there. And I think it's time for the new crowd to come in. I mean, you look at France, and they literally said, hey, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So what are we going to do? We're going to leave Wendy Renard at home. We're going to leave Les Sommer at home, and look at what's happening. And not to say that they were holding France back, but you need a little bit of change sometimes. And that made France exciting. It made them unpredictable. So I think that's what's wrong with the Netherlands.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
great
so
analysis.
This obviously, it looks like the opening game, that France-England game with France winning 2-1, was kind of the deciding factor on who would top the group and obviously sort of get through it there. How good do you think France can be in terms of getting through this and actually going and winning? Because I mean, if they can beat England and obviously sort of existing sort of holders as well. And again, the French, again, as we say, everyone loves to score against the English as well, but the French are always turn up very well in all of these sports across whatever sort of, sports discipline that they're playing. So how good are the French here, would you say, Sarah?
I personally think that they've been the best team in the tournament in the group stage, by my analysis. They've been tested the most, and they've come out on top the most. And I think that they're scary, scary good. They're at this perfect moment. They've got a great balance of veterans, leadership, and youth. And I personally think it's theirs to lose right now. The French always do seem to be kind of like always the bridesmaid, never the bride of the women's soccer scene, where they always can win, but they don't. So it might be all mental for them right now. But in terms of skill, they've got it.
I think 2025 could be France's year. By winning the group, by virtue of that 2-1 victory over England, they have bought themselves a path to the finals that does not have Spain in it. And I think that's a very, very key. I think it's a very key factor. Yes, they have to go through Germany, right? And that's always going to be it's France, Germany, man. No need to bring up the history there, but
they actually do have Spain though. If they get through Germany, they'll have Spain.
Do they? Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, and this is the big argument.
Did I reread my?
Is that how the brackets are working out?
Yeah, this has been the big debate of, was it actually better to go second in Group D? And that's not to disrespect Sweden, because England gets Sweden in the quarterfinals. But if they beat Sweden, or whoever wins in that game is going to get the winner of Norway, Italy. And that's almost a path to the final right there.
Well, I'm glad somebody did their research, because apparently my research sucked. So that's on me. Yikes.
Wow.
Okay.
Hooligan. Okay.
No, I mean, hey, we all make mistakes.
Well, looking at this,
I've looked at this every day for the past 2 months. So that's
no, that's yeah.
So, Sara, then to push you on to the score predictions here, France, Germany. What this looks like, it's going to be a really tight and entertaining game. Hey?
Yeah, my heart says Germany, my head says France. So I'm gonna go with my head, because I just they're just so good. It's hard to bet against them right now. Oof, I think it'll be tight. Maybe 2-1 France.
Okay.
Yeah, I think France pips this one out. I think France's creativity. I think, dare I say, like you often hear of German soccer being referred to as machine-like, but I think that the German efficiency, the German discipline is a little fragile because of the injuries, because of the suspensions. They still have the talent, but I think France's creativity and their sort of elan, right? That they've got a certain style and an elegance about them that is going to come in, and they're going to make the Germans look a bit rooted. And so I think France pulls this out. I think France is going to be able to score 3 against them. They're going to score early. They're going to kind of put Germany on the back foot. And so I'm going to go with France 3-1.
Wow, Qooligan really sticking your neck out there and making a big call as well. It. Okay, that's wonderful.
That's my thought.
England, Sweden here. What do you say there?
Oh, what a match this is!
This is a good one. Hey?
Wow, this is fun. The English need to watch what they're saying, because I'm seeing a lot of English people being like, "Oh, I'm so glad we didn't get Germany." I think Germany's the weaker of the two right now, and I might rather go through Germany. The only benefit of having to go through Sweden is that you don't have to get Spain in the semifinals. So Sweden, I didn't think they looked great the first 2 games, but they certainly broke down Germany well, even when Germany did have 11 players. So, I mean, as a United States women's soccer fan, I have a personal vendetta against Sweden, so it's pretty tough for me to ever pick them. Listen, I think at the end of the day, England do have the deeper bench. I do think that they are the better team. This game is going to come down to who turns up better on that day. I think England just finally found what their best 11 are, and I think that bodes well for them. So I am going to go England.
I'm actually going opposite. This is my upset pick, because I think England should do it. England should win. They should win handily. They're a much more exciting outfit. I think their talent pool is deeper. I think they are younger. Sweden is the oldest team, right? Sweden is packed with experience. They are packed with great, solid players who know their role. But England actually has some creativity. They've got a spark, and they can go in and they'll do the unusual. I mean, Lauren James alone will just make moves and do stuff and whip in balls that shouldn't be whipped in, and
she's incredible.
So there's so much there, but I do think that Sweden is going to be Sweden, and they're going to bedrock that. They're going to bedrock it. They're going to lock it down in the box. They're going to stymie England, and they're going to frustrate them on the counter. And I think it's going to be a 1-0. I think it's going to be a 1-0 Sweden victory.
Hey, that's what they did to the U.S. They took it all the way to pens, and they ended up winning in pens. I forgot to give a scoreline. I do think it'll be a tight match, though. I think that you're right, but I think this one's the one that goes to overtime. For the record, we'll go to extra time, and I think maybe 2-1 England.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
But yeah,
wonderful. Well, guys, that brings us up on time, and obviously a wonderful recap of obviously the group phases of the Women's Euros as we go into the quarterfinals. So we will come back again, I think, and maybe we'll sort of touch in before the finals as well and see how those predictions come out. Sara, thank you so much.
We're going to have to do the little balance, Sarah. Who actually, we ended up picking 3 out of the 4 the same way.
Yeah.
But, all right. Yeah. We'll see what the score lines do.
See.
All right.
Yeah. So Sara,
this has been a blast.
No,
Great.
as always, yeah. So everyone can find you, Women's Soccer Show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the usual places as well. I know we have some articles as well coming on hooligan-soccer.com as well. So you'll be sort of
just like a bunch of stuff on women's Euros and recaps and various other things coming on too.
Wonderful as well. Beautiful. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining, Sarah. Pleasure to have you. And
thank you for joining us.
We'll have to see how this tournament unfolds. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay. Peace.